Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. My name is Amake, and today we're going to be talking about the news that's floating around, rumors, unconfirmed, basically given by internal or anonymous sources that potentially AT&T may be looking for a buyer for Warner Brothers games, or maybe floating the idea out there to kind of see if they can get what they want for it. The numbers and the figures that they called were around $4 billion. That is a very huge fee. I think they're probably trying to gauge what it's worth more than anything else. I think that fee is kind of outlandish in my opinion. $4 billion for their gaming arm. You know, it seems like a decent number with past successes and, with past I don't know how they intend to gauge that because they have not been actively pulling out a lot of games. So let's compare that price with another studio that's considered a small development AAA studio. That's Ubisoft. Compare how many games has come out of this one, publisher compared to the amount of games that has come out of Warner Brothers games. And Ubisoft is kind of in the $7 billion market value range, but the comparison is not even close. And Ubisoft has a lot of games that are live games and games that are being supported compared to Warner Brothers. Let me give you a few examples. For Honor, Rainbow Six, The Division 2, even Brawlhalla right now is also being supported. And, there are other games that they have as well. Ghost Recon Breakpoint is also in its own support as we speak. So that's a whole lot of games that they're supporting, and they're still planning on bringing more games to the market. They have Assassin's Creed Valhalla actually slated for holiday this year. And then there were a lot of other games that they had to push back. They had to push back Watch Dogs Legion. They had to push back potential Rainbow Six Quarantine. I know, crazy name, Quarantine. And, possibly, a Far Cry game, possibly, there's another game called, I can't remember. It's a very, like a Zelda-ish type of game that they were working on. So if this company is pumping out these many games, as much as you want to, maybe point out if Ubisoft's games are quality to you or not, these are games that are bringing and earning Ubisoft a lot of money and basically keeping their publications and their studios quite alive. I mean, it's crazy. One Ubisoft game, like compared, let's say The Division 2. I have another channel that I cover The Division 2. That game is developed by maybe 3 to 4 of their studios and then supported by 3 studios as an ongoing project. And they have a lot of studios on their payroll. Compare that to Warner Brothers and look at the amount of games that have come out of their studio in the past few years, say just from even 2015 when their major Batman franchise was released. You're going to see that, I don't think that $4 billion price tag was what it's worth, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. I'm not a business expert or whatever. I'm just making comparisons. Now, I think that $4 billion is predicated on perhaps potential games that they have in the oven that are about to be released, but who's going to buy a company based on potential earnings that they are not necessarily sure of? And then, franchises like Mortal Kombat 11, which actually sold very well. It's one of the top selling games this year. But that number is still yet to be gauged, if you judge the fact that many other games will be coming out this year as well. And so their numbers were for 2019 at least, but how they've done and how they're going to be able to compete by by year end, holiday 2020, we're yet to see all of that take place. Now, I think all that to say, the question that we have on hand here is EA or Activision going to be able to do a good job if they were going to procure Warner Brothers game studios? Now, many people are saying they don't want EA nor Take-Two nor Activision to touch, this franchise. But I think both companies, EA and Activision, I don't know about Take-Two, have the market share and the market capital to be able to acquire these studios without too many hassles. That's why they're interested. And there are other studios that can probably try to acquire them, but I don't think they want to stretch themselves so thin. EA has banked billions and billions of dollars from a lot of their franchises, and they are in a very strong position to actually pick up this studio. And let's not forget that EA was also in the business of actually making Warner Brothers games. So they do have the potential for a very strong, resume because they have Batman games on their former resume. And I pointed out Ubisoft because they have also created a Batman game in the past. If you know Batman Vengeance on the PlayStation 2 or maybe GameCube, I actually have a copy of that game. That was a game that was actually, developed and published by, I think, Ubisoft. Ubisoft is the name on there. As one of the development studios. And then Activision is also no stranger to making superhero games. They also used to, publish and develop Spider-Man games. They had a studio called Beanox. I think it was a studio in Canada or something. And they also created some of the, Amazing Spider-Man games. They also created I think Spider-Man Edge of Time. Shattered Dimensions. Yes, that was a game I think Beanox did, and maybe even Edge of Time. I can't even really remember the publishers of those games, which is crazy because I played them just a few months back. So these studios have the capability and they have some of the experience to be able to actually make and churn out superhero games if they were to acquire the license. The problem I think a lot of gamers have is the practices of these companies more than anything else. Now, I guess we're just in a point where what practices are we really concerned about as gamers? Because for many years, we've talked about how, these practices are, predatory practices. But at the same time, we've supported these video games and made these companies super rich because they are targeting us, because we were the gamers that were little kids back in the day. And now we're the gamers that are actually working class and have a little bit of extra money. So many of us are not shy to buy skins and cosmetics if they don't affect gameplay. Many of us are not shy to buy things like time savers, even though I'm going to tell you, I'm only a skin and cosmetic person. That's the max of what I'll do. I played Assassin's Creed Odyssey and they had the time savers there, and even Warner Brothers tried to introduce that, and that backlashed in Shadow of War, and they removed the time saver store. But Ubisoft was bold enough to keep theirs in their Assassin's Creed games and are going to continue keeping it, to my knowledge. And I don't think if EA were to take this, a Batman game, I don't think they're going to shy away from something like that. Neither do I think Activision is going to shy away from something like that as well. So it's a scenario. Even Take-Two is most likely not going to shy away from something like that, unless the publisher has stipulations that they do not do anything of that sort, that everything that they want to charge extra for has to provide gameplay value. That is the only way that they're going to be able to do, something of that nature. But I don't think Warner Bros. Is going to be against that, because if you look at Mortal Kombat 11, at first they had wanted to go with that kind of monetization model. They are pushing it. They've been pushing it little by little with Mortal Kombat 11, when it was about to be released, to get skins and all that stuff seemed like it was going to be a super extreme grind. And on release, I don't know if you guys remember, the developers went ahead and gave people a whole bunch of currency to kind of start out with, so that to kind of mitigate the grind once they got into the game. So the backlash has kind of made them usually sulk a little bit. But I feel like if they give it, if this company is divested to any of these two publishers, I think they can take their hands off of it. And I know these two publishers are not going to, shy away from that. But then it brings the reality of things. If these two companies are going to schedule releasing video games in these franchises for, years to come, it's beneficial to the community. The problem is, what quality of games are we going to be getting? Because EA has not shown too much quality in the past few years. Anthem was a disaster. The thing that basically saved and cleaned up a little bit of dirt from EA's name was Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and that was actually something that was done by Respawn. If they would take this franchise and actually give it to Respawn to work on, maybe Respawn gets a subsidiary or a second studio that's under the head of Respawn, Vince Zampella, I will be a little bit more, in my opinion, I'll be a little bit more, how would I say it, at ease with EA actually acquiring this whole franchise. Because Vince Zampella is one person that really understands what gamers actually do want. If you look at that game basically, has no microtransactions of any kind. It just has its DLC, which they said they were going to bring out later down the road, and they delivered. I wish they had brought it out day one, though. That would have really made the game more exciting for people. And it was basically end game style content like the Arkham, where you do challenges and stuff. So they have a business model that basically follows what the single player, story driven experience is, and does provide value for the player for extra money that they pay. Now, Activision, on the other hand, I don't know what they're going to do, because it seems like it's been a while since they've actually put down a single player experience that's not going to take you into a store to go purchase. So as crazy as it sounds, if we're going to be picking from the least of both evils, EA under Respawn's management, or the EA purchasing and handing on the the responsibility to Vince Zampella and that kind of tradition of EA development is most likely our best bet. I don't think Activision is going to really serve the interest of what these kinds of games mean to their community of gamers. As sad as it is, EA is conditionally, nonetheless, I'm not, as crazy as it sounds, conditionally EA is probably going to provide the best possible, the best possible scenario if they give it to a company like Respawn. And I've said this 3 or 4 times because I want to emphasize it before somebody, tries to say, how can you vie for EA? You're talking to somebody who played FIFA for years, who's broken a TV and controllers for FIFA. So if I know the nastiness that EA can bring to gaming, I can tell you for sure that I understand how that company is bereft of what it means to serve gamers. They have no concept of that. They're very financially motivated. But at the same time, Activision is in no place to speak as a better company than EA. Now, the question is Take-Two Interactive. I have not necessarily, encountered too much of what Take-Two Interactive really, has to bring. I've basically not played a lot of their games, to be very honest. And so in thinking about, what they're going to bring to the market regarding publishing, I really don't have too much to deal with. I mean, I own a copy of Red Dead Redemption 2, but I have not played it. I've never purchased any of the 2K NBA games. But if you think about the reputation they also have with Grand Theft Auto 5, now there's going to be monetary aspects if they were to develop a Batman game of that sort. Think about it. That's what we're going to have. We're going to have a Batman game, and then we're going to have an online component. They are not short of people that can actually provide gameplay that will, span for years and years and years. And I think with them, the question is, do, gamers want to actually engage in that in the Batman side, or do we want to keep that single player tradition going? And if you think about it, even comparing just a game like GTA 5 and all that stuff, and if they don't make the game like Mafia or whatever, well, according to the Mafia style design, because Mafia 3 was not necessarily the greatest, then I don't know, man. I think it's a very tight, discussion right now. I think Warner Brothers needs to deal with the studios that they've dealt with in the past and probably not do a sale. I don't think AT&T needs to do a sale. I think they need to merge with a developer that has a good, solid work ethic. And that is CD Projekt Red. I guess I can talk about this in another video because right now this video is actually dragging too long, much longer than I wanted to. And I guess we'll talk about this in a separate video. So appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for listening to the video. If you haven't joined the Video Game Fight School community, please hit the subscribe button. We'll talk about video games, talk about, all kinds of fun stuff here. And I hope to see you all in the next one. Stay safe. Peace out.